Hello and welcome back to another video in the Moodle Course Development Series. I'm Joe Deegan, and in this video you'll learn how to make your courses more social with peer assessment using the Workshop module. In the last video you learned how to create collaborative resources in your Moodle courses with the Wiki activity. Now you're going to learn how to use a different type of social activity called a workshop to facilitate peer assessment activities. So let's take a look at an example of a workshop so you can get a better idea of how it can be used. As you can see, there are several phases of a workshop. There's the setup phase, where the teacher sets up the workshop for their purposes. Then there's the submission phase, where students submit their work. And then after the submission phase comes the assessment phase, where students can assess each other's work or their own depending on how you set it up. And then the next phase is the grading evaluation phase, which is when the final submissions can be graded by the teacher. And finally, there's the closed phase, and that's when the workshop and grading is complete. And this is a great way to facilitate peer or self-assessment before the student is required to submit the final version of the assignment for grading, either by their peers or their teacher. So let's head back to the course site and we'll set up a workshop for our course. And as usual, you'll have to turn editing on, then use the add an activity or resource option to add a workshop. So we'll add ours to section 4 down here. So I'll click add an activity or resource. Then I'm looking for the workshop option, which is at the bottom of the activities menu. So I'll click on workshop and then I'll click add. And then after clicking add, we'll be brought to the workshop settings page where we can enter a name and introduction for our workshop. Okay, now we'll scroll down to the Workshop Features section, where we can customize how our workshop will function. And the first option allows the teacher to provide an example of the assignment for students. And the peer assessment option is what will allow you to set up peer-to-peer evaluation for the assignment. And the Use Self-Assessment option will allow you to set up an activity where they can assess their own submission prior to grading. So for this example, we'll just set it up as a peer assessment. And then we can scroll down to the Grading Settings section, where we have options to enter the number of points for submitting the assignment and points for assessing their peers or their own submission as well. For example, if you want to give them points for submitting the assignment and points for assessing their peers' assignment, then you would use these settings to do so. And next we can scroll down and enter some instructions to give students for submitting. So the instructions you enter here will appear on the screen where they're going to be submitting their assignment at. And then next you'll need to scroll down and enter some instructions for the assessment part of the workshop. And this is whether they're doing peer or self-assessment. So the instructions you enter here will appear on the screen where they'll be doing the assessment. And after entering the assessment instructions, if you scroll down a little further and click on this Show Advanced button, you'll see you have more options for the access control section, which allows you to control the dates and times of when the assignments can be submitted and assessed. And then once we're done configuring our settings, we can scroll down and click the Save and Display button. And after clicking Save and Display, you'll be brought to this screen where you can finish setting up the workshop and switch it to submission phase so that your students can start submitting their assignment. But before switching to the submission phase, we'll need to finish setting up the workshop by editing the assessment form and preparing an example submission. So to edit the assessment form, you just click on it here where the checkbox is, and you'll be brought to this screen where you can enter a description for grading and then a description for each aspect you're grading on. So for example, if you have a rubric for the assignment with several aspects, then you can enter each of those aspects here and allocate a number of points or a weight for each aspect. And this is how you provide a rubric for students to base their assessment on. So I'll go ahead and enter my instructions and my aspects now. And then after entering each aspect and the points associated, you can scroll down and click the Save and Close button to move on to the next step. And now you can see that each step in the setup phase is complete, so my workshop is almost ready to be used. But before notifying students that it's ready, I'll need to switch it to submission phase by clicking on this light bulb in the submission phase section. So I'll go ahead and do that now. And then I'll click the continue button here to confirm that I want to turn submission on. And now that I've switched it to submission phase, the students will be able to access it on the course site, and then they'll be able to submit their assignment. So let's take a look at this from the student's perspective by logging in as a student, and then we'll submit the assignment, and then log back in as another student so we can assess the workshop assignment. Okay, now I'm logged in as a student, so I can submit the workshop assignment by first clicking on the workshop activity. And then once I'm in the workshop activity, I can see I'm in the submission phase. So to submit, I'll just click Submit. And then after clicking Submit, the student will be brought to this page where they can see instructions for submission, and then they can either enter online text or upload a file. When I was setting up the workshop, I selected to have both the online text and the upload a file option. And you can either do one or other or both. So I'll go ahead and submit my assignment. And then after entering the online text or uploading the file, you can scroll down and click Save Changes. And the student will know it's submitted when they're brought to this screen where they can see the content of their assignment, and they can click the Edit Submission button if they need to make changes. So now that there's an assignment submitted, I'll log back in as an administrator so I can allocate submissions to be peer-reviewed and switch it to the assessment phase so that students can start assessing each other's assignments. Okay, now that I'm logged in as the teacher or an administrator, I can click on the workshop activity. And then if I look down here, I can see that there's been some submissions, including the one I just submitted as the test student. So now that I know that there's submissions, I'll need to allocate the submissions by clicking the Allocate Submissions option here. And then after clicking Allocate Submissions, I'm brought to this screen where I can allocate reviewers using the Add Reviewer and Reviewee drop-down menus. And something to note is that only students who have submitted assignments will be able to be allocated as a reviewee. So I'll go ahead and make my allocations now. And then after making the allocations, you're brought to this screen where you can confirm your allocations or make changes if you need to. So now that we've assigned reviewers and reviewees, we need to go back to the workshop. So I'll click on it here. And from here, we'll need to switch it to the assessment phase. So to switch to assessment phase, I'll click on the light bulb icon in the assessment phase column. And then I'll click the continue button to confirm that I want it in the assessment phase. And then after switching it to the assessment phase, you'll be able to see a summary of submitted assignments and grades down here. But there's no grades yet until the students do the peer review. So let's log in as a student and do that now. Okay, now that I'm logged in as a student, I can go back to the workshop. And since we're in the assessment phase now, I can see that assignment I've been allocated to review down here. And all I need to do to assess is click this Assess button, and I'll be brought to this upcoming page where I can see the content of the assignment and the assessment form with the grading aspects that I set up earlier. So I'll go ahead and complete the assessment form by selecting a grade and adding a comment for each aspect. And you'll need to do that for each aspect in the form. And then after completing the grade and the comment for each aspect, I'll click Save and Continue Editing, or Save and Close if I'm done. So I'll go ahead and click Save and Close to complete the peer review. And now that the peer review is done, the student will have a grade for submitting the assignment, as well as a grade for reviewing the assignment. And then from here, the teacher or the administrator will just need to go back in and complete the workshop by switching it to first the grading evaluation phase so that the teacher can give grades, and then finally the closed phase when everything's all complete and all the grades are done. Okay, time for a little practice. Test out the workshop activity by setting one up on your Moodle course site, and try going through the whole process as a student so you can see how each phase of the process works. In this video, you learned how to facilitate a peer assessment activity using the workshop activity. In the next section, we'll talk about methods for evaluating students. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video.